Welcome to the candidate forum put on by the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am from the League of Women Voters in Central Kane County. I am outside of this jurisdiction and cannot vote for any of these candidates. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are happy to provide this service for the community. League of Women Voters of Elmhurst has come up with some questions, 3 of which were given to the candidates ahead of time, as well as collecting questions from the community via an email address. This forum is for those seeking to be mayor of Elmhurst. The candidates have agreed to abide by the rules set forth prior to this forum. They each will present a 1-minute introductory statement in the order that was determined by picking numbers. I picked the numbers. Then questions obtained from email will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Closing statements will be in reverse order of the introductory statements, and they will also be 1 minute in length. League of Women Voters Elmhurst member Dave Williams will be our timekeeper, and candidates will strictly adhere to the time limits. Candidates, please notice Mr. Williams. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence, but please let's not elaborate and go on. So we are ready to start with our opening, and we will start with Mr. Bram.
Hello, Elmhurst League of Women Voters. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Michael Bram, and I have served the 3rd Ward of Elmhurst as alderman for 20 years. I have a citywide reputation as a leader who is accessible, who listens to and helps all Elmhurst residents throughout the community, all the time, not just around the election season. This is true leadership. I have taken the lead on many issues like stormwater, advanced life support, the budget, and recycling, to name a few. I always pursue what is right for the residents of Elmhurst, and that means asking questions and always listening to every side of a situation. I will continue to take the lead for the best outcomes for Elmhurst and will continue to put the community first as your next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Levin.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to address you and for the opportunity to introduce myself. I've been an Elmhurst alderman for 10 years. During that time, I've chaired the Public Affairs and Safety Committee and the Development and Planning Committee. I currently serve as Vice Chair of the Finance Committee. In 2013, I had the honor and pleasure of serving as acting mayor of Elmhurst for 6 months. I've been a business attorney, litigator, mediator for 35 years. During that time, I've represented many businesses before city councils of other communities on business and zoning matters. Prior to being a lawyer in private practice, I was with the state of Illinois for 10 years, where I was deputy director of the Criminal Justice Authority. This is the experience I will bring to the mayor's office to lead us through the difficult times we're in and into the next decade. I believe I'm an independent, critical thinker who cares deeply about the residents of Elmhurst, including doing the right thing for the right reasons to serve the common good of the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mulliner.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting on this. I wish we were able to be in person, but this is the way it is today, so we'll just have to deal with it. I'm a lifelong resident in the city of Elmhurst, a graduate of Lincoln School, Bryan Middle School, York High School, and Northern Illinois University. After that, I became the Director of Technology for District 205. I ran a company for 20 years that supported technology in school districts across the state of Illinois. I'm the longest serving alderman at the current time, and having been the longest serving alderman, I act as the mayor pro tem in the absence of the mayor during meetings. I have been served on multiple committees, as well as the chairman of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee. On top of that, I served on the library board for 6 years when we developed the plan for the new 5-star public library and worked hard to make sure that we preserve the Wilder Mansion to maintain the history of Elmhurst. I look forward to serving you as your next mayor.
Thank you. And now we will go to question 1, and we will start with Mr. Levin. What are your priorities for this community?
Thank you. My top priority is our post-pandemic economic recovery. To regain our sales tax revenues, we have to fully support our existing businesses and to make the community attractive for new businesses to come in and fill any vacancies. Our budget must be carefully reviewed to identify efficiencies without sacrificing essential public services such as police, fire, and emergency medical services. Although it seems counterintuitive, we must invest in updating our city's plans, which has not been done in several years, to make sure that we're prepared for the post-pandemic economic recovery and to meet the needs and expectations of our residents. As times change, we must be willing to adapt our practices and how we do businesses. I would also do a full review of our boards and commissions to ensure that they are fully focused on the purposes for which they were created. Thank you.
Mr. Mulliner.
Yes, my priorities are similar to Alderman Levin's. I do believe that the most important thing right now is to recover from the pandemic. I also believe that one of the important things that we need to do as a city is to create a biannual meeting between the school district, park district, and the city so that we can become more of a cohesive community as it relates to our vision for the community overall. It also gives us an opportunity to look at places where we can share economics and make it so that we're much more cost effective, bringing down the cost of multiple different things. In addition to that, I look at economic development, and I think that we need to make sure that as we do that economic development, we need to balance the need for green space with economic development. So one of my proposals is to put in a grassy area where the current donut hole is in the downtown area so that we have a place for people to gather and have some grass in the community downtown. I could go on, but I know we don't have enough time. Look at my website for additional information.
Thank you. Bram.
Thank you. My priority is the community itself, and doing what is best for the residents is first in all my decisions as your mayor. There are 2 platform goals that I would like to highlight. First would be to improve our financial standing while keeping our property taxes in line. We have a lot of infrastructure needs coming up in the near future, like stormwater, the wastewater treatment plant improvements, removal of lead services, etc. We also need to fund our pension liabilities at 100%, which we are not there now. Second, I want to allow our firefighter paramedics to be able to provide advanced life support services to our residents. Providing advanced life support services means a paramedic can administer medications, IVs, intubate, cardiac, as well as respiratory services. When a firefighter paramedic arrives first on scene, they would have the equipment to provide advanced life support services to our residents. Currently, only our contract paramedics on an ambulance can provide advanced life support services. I would like for this to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 2, and we'll start with Mr. Mulliner. Are diversity, equity, and inclusion part of your vision for the city?
Yes, one of the most important things that we can do is to learn to sit down and start talking with each other and respect each other. One of the programs that I'm going to be endorsing as we move forward is a new program that's being put together now called Respect Elmhurst. This will give us an opportunity for all of us to get together and kind of talk about things that are positive in the community and to focus our energy on working together as a community and make sure that we do the right things for everyone who's in this community, no matter who you are. We want to make sure that we continue to do the things that we have been doing over the years, but we also want to make sure that we improve any of those issues that people still believe are out there. And we must have that conversation. We must be willing to listen to each other if we identify locations and issues that are in front of us. So I look forward to working with that organization to make this happen in the city of Elmhurst. And I look forward to people listening and working with each other. Thank you.
Mr. Bram.
Thank you. Diversity and inclusion is probably going to be important for not only every mayoral candidate, but everybody within the city of Elmhurst. I have learned a lot along the way of this topic coming brought forth to the city council when a lot of our residents came and expressed their concerns with some of the experiences that they've had within the community. I have grown by researching this matter. I have grown by watching videos, as well as talking with the Backyard Caucus and participating in the United Way of Illinois diversity campaign as well. I think the city of Elmhurst has done a good job with starting the conversation, but this is not a short-term fix. This is something that needs to continue on and will need to move forward, and discussions are the first part of it, but reevaluating the training, what the city of Elmhurst is doing, is also paramount.
Thank you. Mr. Levin.
Thank you. I also attended the Backyard Caucus meetings at a time before we knew we were going to be running for mayor. I come from a community that has a much more diverse background, having grown up and gone to high school in Evanston. I brought the police chief, hearing the concerns of some of the minority residents, to the Backyard Caucus to explain our policing practices and to answer questions for those members. The events of the summer have critically changed the community's viewpoint and the country's viewpoint on thinking about diversity. Every major corporation, including my law firm, has diversity education programs and sensitivity programs, and we have to be the same kind of leader on the municipal level. So the mayor's office will be open to those concerns, and I believe that we can fully support our community and fully support our police and what they're doing to serve the community. Thank you.
Question number 3, and we'll start with Mr. Bram. The Illinois Affordable Housing Planning and Appeal Act, originally passed in 2003, requires cities with at least 1,000 residents and with less than 10% affordable housing to submit affordable housing plans to the state. Elmhurst currently has 8.2% affordable housing and has never submitted a plan to address this. Why?
Thank you. I can't speak to the reason why the city of Elmhurst has not submitted a plan. And you stole some of my thunder by actually reciting the 8.2% that affordable housing that the city of Elmhurst has to date. One of my goals as your mayor is to make sure that not only we reach the state mandate of 10% in affordable housing, but to submit that plan by the end of this year. Affordable housing should be looked at throughout the community. And I know a community, I believe it is Northbrook, that has passed an ordinance to have all new developments of 5 units or more include 15% of affordable housing. I don't know if that is right for Elmhurst, but I think that is something that we should consider, and we should look at other communities and open our vision of what we should do in Elmhurst to make sure that we increase our affordable housing, not only for our first home buyers, but our seniors as well.
Thank you. Mr. Levin.
Thank you. Affordable housing is a tough topic. I think that it has to be something that's done in a way that makes sense for developers to want to come to Elmhurst and build affordable housing. It can't just be declared that we're going to have it if it doesn't make economic sense for the builders. I took a look at some of the other communities. Evanston built some senior affordable housing with some incentives from the federal government that made it worthwhile. They have that new complex that just opened. I've long said that one of the problems with Elmhurst is that when people want to downsize and move to a smaller residence, there's nothing really affordable other than rental. And what happens is downsizing means moving to Villa Park or some other community. So I think this is something that needs to be looked at carefully as we go into the next mayoral administration. Thank you.
Mr. Mulliner.
Yes, affordable housing is a very complicated problem. Yes, we are at 8%. At one point, we were exceeding that 10%. So I'm assuming that We definitely need to focus our energy on making sure that the reports are filled out properly and that we build our affordable housing back up to over 10% preferably. There are a number of options that we have, and a number of them have already been listed, potentially asking developers to come in and provide X amount of affordable housing in each one of their facilities that they have. I believe that that's one of the best solutions that we have in front of us right now. I do understand the issue of the housing stock that we have in Elmhurst and how difficult it is to find affordable housing stock in Elmhurst. And that's something that, once again, needs to be addressed. It's a difficult issue to address. And I think the first place we can start is in the multifamily housing locations. And I think that's what we will end up doing. And I commit myself to doing the same thing, making sure that we get appropriate amounts of affordable housing in Elmhurst.
Thank you. Question 4. And we'll start with Mr. Levin. If you are elected mayor, what specific actions would you promote in order to lead the city, residents, and businesses to switch to lower cost or 100% renewable energy?
Thank you. In 2014, Mayor Morley appointed a 30-plus member sustainability task force comprised of community volunteers and representatives of key Elmhurst institutions. The task force adopted a sustainability action plan that was championed by Alderman Polumsky. In 2018, as chair of the Public Affairs and Safety Committee, I guided that report that had stalled through the committee and the council. As mayor, I would hold a special meeting of the council to review the sustainability plan and its principles, goals, and the city's progress. The meeting would be an opportunity to educate the new aldermen and the recently elected aldermen and the public, and to receive additional public input. Strategies could be refined or added as needed to enhance action in all 4 areas of the plan. I will also work with city staff to bolster public education related to sustainability. Our recently approved electrical aggregation plan will provide $320,000 over the next 2 years that can support this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mulliner.
Yes, sustainable energy is an important component of Elmhurst, as was stated by Alderman Levin. In front of us, we have a plan that was put together by a 30-plus member task force. I believe that we need to look at each one of those items as it's been addressed and continue to look at those. And as years go on, try to identify better ways that we can provide more energy on a sustainable level. I will also say that I would support the concept, besides the aggregated electric that we've been doing, looking toward gas and see if we can do something in that area. I believe that we need to start looking toward putting in downtown and all the business districts more charging stations so that electric cars become much more feasible. I also believe that we need to put more bike racks in and storage facilities. In addition to that, we also need to make sure that we have reliable electricity. And over the years, I have championed the fact that DuPage County or Elmhurst has been able to put in a storm weathered grid and a smart grid in the city of Elmhurst. And I was the champion on that from the city council perspective.
Thank you. Mr. Bram.
It is my goal to move forward with having all city buildings find ways to utilize some type of renewable energy. Through previous and current electricity aggregation contracts, the city has dedicated these funds for sustainability projects. I recommend using those funds to create a demonstration project to help educate residents about solar. I would also look for ways to improve the efficiency of the permitting process for residential solar permits and create financial incentives for businesses and new developments utilizing solar. Prioritize the installation of electric vehicle charging stations in business districts and any new developments. Recommend the use of solar at the new metro station. When we had the opportunity to obtain energy credits and local municipal funds from the aggregation provider, I advocated for both to allow us to get the best of both worlds, local funds for sustainability projects and credits. I have led numerous sustainability discussions in the city council, one of which my recommendation and referral was to bring all city vehicles to alternate fuel.
Thank you. Question number 5, starting with Mr. Mulliner. How do you see the city maintaining its obligation to fire and police pension funds?
Fire and police pension funds are a difficult subject, and we need to continue to focus our energy on those. Unfortunately, it's something that is an obligation that is going to be there for a long time. The good thing is that we have changed a number of things at the state level, and there's multiple tiers to the fire and police obligations now. So any new employee will be at a different tier level, which will help us significantly on some of those pension funds. We will have to, no matter what, continue to figure out ways to fund those. One of the funding sources, as we look at funding, that I think we need to look at is, as we start doing more development in town, we need to look at the assets the city has and maybe do some land leases so we can bring in additional revenue from a different source than our normal regular way of bringing in revenue as far as taxing people. I think land leases is a way that something that we need to definitely look at. And I think it's a way that we can help us to maybe help to offset some of those costs of those pension funds.
Thank you, Mr. Bram.
Thank you. We have discussed this topic in our finance committee on multiple occasions. We are currently on plan to be 100% funded for the fire and police pension fund in 2036. We revised this plan to extend our time frame due to the current economic challenges we have due to the pandemic. 2036 is still a reachable goal, and we plan to do that. Currently, we are one of the, I would say, better off communities. The police is 62%, approximately 62% funded, and the fire is approximately 66% funded at this time. If we continue to follow our plan and invest wisely, we'll be able to reach our 100% pension liabilities by 2036.
Thank you. Mr. Levin.
Well, thank you. I also serve on the Finance Committee with Alderman Bram, so a lot of the information I say would be the same. But what's noteworthy is we are on target for meeting that goal, and we're far ahead of most other municipalities. One of the things that kind of hobbles us is that we do not determine as a city the amounts that will be contributed to the police and firefighter pensions. Those are determined by the state of Illinois, and then we are required to fund those obligations. In addition, we have to be very careful in terms of how our investments are performing, because that greatly affects the target we're going to hit. And our Finance Committee has worked to make sure that as we strive to meet that goal, that we're not putting all of the tax burden on the current residents, but having it carry out for a number of years so that it will be taken care of by this generation and the next generation to meet that goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 6, starting with Mr. Bram. With the pandemic, what needs to be done to address the shortfall in Elmhurst revenue, and how would you address the budget? Would you consider revisiting the idea of marijuana sales and/or video gambling to improve the city budget?
During one of my Alderman Facebook Live meetings last year, I stated that I would support bringing back to the City Council for discussion marijuana sales, hoop houses, and video gambling. My reason is not due to any budget shortfalls, but because enough time has passed to make a decision with actual usage cases and experiences from other communities. I've always been fiscally conservative, not only in challenging years, and this separates me from others. I have always challenged incentives that did not prove to have a valuable return on investment. I've requested cuts in our budget expenditures, for example, reevaluating our consultant fees. I insisted upon and had our refuse contract go out for bid, allowing us to get a better pricing, and this has been the only time this has been done. Thank you.
Mr. Levin. Oh, you need to unmute.
Sorry, thank you. In 2020, we froze hiring and deferred multiple major expenditures. As recommended by the 2000 Finance Task Force report, which I authored, we once again must do a full and careful budget review of the programs we support and the way we provide our services to see if economies can be realized. We must diligently look for grant opportunities and to improve intergovernmental cooperation. Elmhurst will not accept revenue from a source that negatively impacts our community or our children. Video gaming was overwhelmingly rejected by the residents and the city council, and in 2019, the city council said no to cannabis sales in Elmhurst. While I remain opposed to video gaming, I believe we should carefully evaluate the experience of cannabis sales in other communities that have allowed it and provide our residents the opportunity to fully participate in that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mulliner.
Yes, as it was stated before, we made some significant, I would call them holds on the budget during the pandemic of approximately $9.5 million. As those items are coming back, we're carefully reviewing those items, and we need to continue to carefully review those. In some cases, we can bring in contract employees rather than employees, thus helping our pension funds as well as the other funds that we have. Some of the things that I think we need to look at, and I think we need to be very cautious about, is bringing in new programs. An example, I understand that there's an interest in looking at ALS as it relates to fire department, but the reality is that ALS will take and add an additional $2 million onto our budget. We don't have the space for that. It will also impact our pension funds long term. So I think it's very important that we look at each project that we bring in and make sure that we bring in something that's fiscally responsible as we do it. Gaming, I think we need to look at, because I think we need to level the playing field as it relates to the communities that are surrounding us. We need to make it an equal playing field for all of the businesses in our community as well as those in the other community. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 7, starting with Mr. Levin. The changing retail landscape has increased the pressure on suburban downtown areas to create unique entertainment experiences. What role can public art play in enhancing Elmhurst business districts?
Well, public art is an important part for a mature and sophisticated city like Elmhurst. I've worked a good deal with the Public Arts Commission when I was chair of public safety to get it launched. I think that we can make sure that when our developers come to town, that we solicit contributions from them when they build something, that they put some public art in, as we did with the recent Opus installation. I think that there are other amenities that add greatly to our community. For instance, the Elmhurst Center for the Performing Arts is something that not only will enhance the lives and enrich the lives of our residents, but will increase the economic viability of our city by bringing visitors to our downtown area to shop in our stores, to eat in our restaurants, and thereby contribute to our tax base. So public art, performing arts center, all of these are amenities that contribute to the value of our community and make people want to live here and come here. Thank you.
Mr. Mulliner.
Yes, public arts is a very critical component of it. What I want to do is make sure that I emphasize the fact that what we're dealing with is a downtown that I believe needs to have some additional green space. And I go back to talking about the green space in the donut hole. I believe that that's a critical component in allowing us to put in more public art. I think by having a facility like that that would be adjacent to, and actually the backside of it would be the fine arts building, I think it's important for us to have that there so that we can bring in more people and have more of a cultural environment. Fine arts belongs all over the city if we can do it, not just in our downtown. You know, I go into places like Lombard and I look at some of the art that they have there, and I always think, well, we should have some of that in Elmhurst. And I believe very much that we are actually getting to the point where we're going to have that because of the fine arts group. And I appreciate all the effort that they're putting in to move this forward.
Thank you. Mr. Bram.
I agree that public art is definitely something that assists any downtown, but any community overall with bringing visitors to their in this case, in their downtown area. As some examples, and this is not specifically to public art in itself, but we have destination locations currently today, like the Elmhurst Art Museum, which would draw people from other communities to come to Elmhurst and then shop and eat at Elmhurst afterwards. We have, as Alderman Levin has stated, we have a proposal of the community pulling the Performing Arts Center to downtown Elmhurst, which would also be a destination location. I feel that arts throughout our downtown area, and as Alderman Mulliner said, throughout the community would bring people from other communities to Elmhurst and would help with our overall revenue and just the overall feel of our downtown area.
Thank you. Our final question, and we'll start with Mr. Mulliner. What strengths do you bring that will foster relationships with other elected bodies?
Having served on the library board for 6 years, I had the opportunity to work with the Park District on a number of occasions in order to identify the appropriate location. I have very good relationships with a number of the school district members. And having been a former technology director in the school district, I fully understand the benefits of working with the schools, and I understand what their constraints are as well as ours. I believe that there's places where we can immediately impact those, and I think that we've already begun some of those discussions. And one of my examples of that would be the garage. Currently, the Park District and city shares a garage, and I believe that the school district, through negotiations, will be able to come in and share our garage as well, and freeing up more green space at Bryan by having that parking lot removed from Bryan that's currently there being used as their garage, and putting their garage in and sharing it with ours. And I believe I bring that opportunity because I've got the experience of working with both groups already.
Thank you. Mr. Bram.
I believe I bring a lot of strengths when it comes to working with other governmental bodies. One of my platform goals is to improve on our intergovernmental relations. There has been, over time, especially when it came to discussion of stormwater issues, a lot of public discourse over what was being said and done by the other government bodies, which I did not approve of, and I also stood up against. I am one who has listened to residents, aldermen, city staff, and also other governmental bodies over my 20 years as being the alderman of the 3rd Ward. I will continue to do so. I'm willing to listen. I am also wanting to share in any financial impacts with the Park District as well as the school district to share those financial liabilities across all governments compared to doing everything on our own.
Thank you. Mr. Levin.
Thank you. I think the ability to work with other governmental agencies like the school board or the Park District is something that's a personal attribute that you have or you don't have. And I've worked, I spent a lot of time working with different people across the community. I've been involved in a lot of different community organizations, and I've proven that I can get together with different organizations and solve a problem. When I was acting mayor, the issue was contentious with the school board in terms of how they would share in the TIF funds from that location, and I negotiated successfully a settlement with the school board. During the stormwater issues, I worked behind the scenes to talk to school board members and park board members to see if we could find a solution. So a lot of what you see is happening by interpersonal relationships. It doesn't happen necessarily at the council level, and I believe I have those unique qualities to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go with our closing statements, and we will start with Mr. Mulliner and go backwards. Mr. Mulliner.
I just want to have this opportunity to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on. I want to thank the residents of Elmhurst. I also want to thank the 2 other aldermen who are running for mayor. They've done a phenomenal job in their current roles, and I hope to be able to continue to work with them in whatever role it ends up being. I also want to thank my family. My family has been very supportive of me for the last 30 years, being involved in public life for the last 30 years. And it's something that's very important to me. I would say that the one thing that I want to make sure that I bring to the table is that I have a love of Elmhurst. I'm retired. I have the time to be able to devote to being the mayor. I know what we need to do in order to provide a vision. I understand the history of Elmhurst, and I know how to listen and communicate with others, and that's most important. And I just thank you, and please, on April 6th or before, vote Mulliner for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Levin.
Well, I want to thank the League for its hard work in putting this forum together under difficult circumstances, and for all the people who will take the time to watch this and learn about these important municipal elections. I've been an Elmhurst resident for 24 years. I raised my children here. I believe Elmhurst offers a quality of life for residents of all ages. I want to keep Elmhurst a thriving, safe, and healthy community, and by serving as mayor, I believe I can do that. Personal integrity and honesty have been top priorities for me. I've long been an advocate of good government, including open government and being responsive to residents. My 10 years of service as an alderman evidence these strongly held beliefs. I have a track record of resolving tough issues by thinking independently and building consensus among my colleagues on the city council. I hope you'll visit my website, www.levinformayor, that's Levin number 4 mayor.com, to see what I'm all about. I humbly ask for your support on April 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bram.
My term of alderman is up, but I am confident I will continue to serve this community as mayor. After diligently serving Elmhurst for the past 20 years, it is time to take my experience, knowledge, and dedication to the residents of Elmhurst to the next level and serve as your next mayor. I have always been one who challenges the status quo and brings a discussion in front of the public. I have a proven record of being an independent, fair, and responsive leader. I do my homework on every single issue, and I'm fiscally conservative. I listen carefully not only to the issues at hand, but to the people of Elmhurst in order to consider all perspectives and options before making a decision. As your next mayor, I will continue to put the community first. I appreciate this time to communicate with you, the residents of Elmhurst, as well as the League. For more information about my campaign, visit bram4mayor.com, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Our time is up for this forum, and your participation as a candidate and as a voter is essential to preserving our freedom and our country. Please remember to vote on or before April 6th, as one vote can decide the election, and that one vote could be yours. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for participating. Thank you, Patty, for being our